Good morning and welcome to Alive and Thriving. I'm Nathaniel J. and today we're going to be reading from chapter 14 of Baird T. Spalding's Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. Super excited to have you here, and without further ado, let's jump right in. As we neared Hardwar, about a day's journey from the city, we stopped at the home of an American whom we called Weldon. He gave us a hearty welcome and insisted upon our remaining with him for a few days. Weldon, a well-known writer who had lived in India for many years, was in sympathy with and deeply interested in our work. He had asked several times to join our party, but circumstances had been such that we could not include him. As we sat in his garden the next day, relating our experiences, Weldon suddenly remarked that he had never fully accepted the authenticity of the history and life of the man called Jesus of Nazareth. He had studied available records carefully, but they had all seemed vague and lacking in conclusion. Finally, he had given up in despair, as there were very grave doubts in his mind that such a character existed. Our chief asked him if he were brought face to face with this man, did he think he would know him, and how would he recognize him? To which Weldon replied, "You have touched upon a subject that has been the greatest motivating ideal of my whole life. You will never know the absorbing interest with which I have looked forward to some sign of actual truth of the man's existence in bodily form upon this earth. Each year my doubts have grown stronger until I have despaired of ever finding a trace that I can place full confidence in. However, there has always been something away back somewhere that I might define as a vague thought or ray of hope that sometime, somewhere, if I could meet this man face to face without a suggestion from any outside source, I would know him positively. Instinctively, this thing wells up before me. And as I say this to you, I have never before voiced it. I know I would know him. This is the most sincere feeling I have ever experienced, and if you will pardon me for a repetition, I will say again, I know I would know him." That evening, as we were preparing to retire, our chief came to us and said, "You all heard the conversation regarding the man Jesus this afternoon, and you recognize the sincerity of our friend. Well, shall we invite him to go with us? We do not know, nor have we any way of determining whether this man that is known as Jesus of Nazareth will be at our destination. We cannot check his movements. In fact, we only know that he has been there. And if we invite Weldon to go and the man is not there, will it not result in further disappointment and serve no good purpose? Weldon seems anxious to go with us, and since none of us knows that this man Jesus will be there will be no suggestion from any of us in any way. And in this, I think the time is auspicious," to which we all agreed. The next morning, our chief invited Weldon to accompany us, and instantly his face lighted up with anticipation. After a moment's reflection, he said he had an assignment for the following Wednesday and would be obliged to return by that time. As this was Thursday, he would have 6 days, and our chief thought that time sufficient. So we decided to leave that afternoon. And we went well, and we reached our destination before noon of the second day. As we arrived, we noticed a group of 12 people sitting together in the garden of the lodge we were to occupy. And as we approached, they all arose, and the owner of the lodge came forward to greet us. In the group, we saw the man Jesus standing, and before anyone could say a word or make a suggestion, Weldon had stepped from our midst with both hands extended, and with a joyous exclamation rushed forward, clasping Jesus' hands and saying, "Oh, I knew you! I knew you! This is the most divine moment of my whole life!" And when we realized what had taken place, there was something akin to divine joy that swept through us as we beheld the rapture of our friend. And we stepped forward, and then we exchanged greetings as Weldon was introduced to the group. After lunch, while sitting in the garden, Weldon said to Jesus, "Won't you talk to us? I have been waiting a lifetime for this moment." There was silence for a few moments, then Jesus began. "In the silence of the hour, I would have you know that the Father to whom I speak and who dwells within me is the same loving Father who dwells in all and to whom all can speak and know just as intimately as I do. A breath of wondrous glory sweeps across the chords that vibrate with a life pure and divine. It is so pure that the waiting silence stops and intently listens. The fingers of the great and knowing one of yourself touches your hand with lingering softness, and the voice, as always, is telling you of the Father's great and glorious love. Your voice is saying to you, I know you are with me, and together you and I are God. Now the Christ of God stands forth. Won't you erase every limitation and stand with me in spirit? Greater thoughts have not been given than these I give unto you. It does not matter that men say it cannot be. You, each one of you, are standing forth the divine master, conquering and in full dominion, just as you have seen me conquer. The time is here. The fulfilling pure thought that you have sent out to the divine master has come to fruition in your own body, and the soul has taken complete command. With me, you soar to heights celestial. And I'll draw attention to the fact that Jesus says, it does not matter that men say it cannot be. You, each one of you, are standing forth the divine master, conquering and in full dominion. There you have it, folks. When you have conversations with other people regarding these spiritual topics, you will invariably find that doubt can easily become the theme of the listening party, as well as skepticism, as well as flat-out rejection to you giving forth the decree that any person can stand forth as the Christ. And if you are so bold as to claim it as your identity, you are sure to be met with rejection and scorn, especially if you're not fully demonstrating the divine attributes of the Christ yet. Nonetheless, it should not dissuade you from boldly claiming your identity, because back of all the doubt, back of all the knowing, back of anything is the Christ. And when you fully step forth and claim this identity, as we talked about, and present the ideal, then it is only a matter of time before the Christ becomes you. We lift these bodies up until their shining radiance becomes a blaze of pure white light, and together we have returned to the Father from whence all have come forth. God our Father is pure light emanation, and from this vibrating light all come forth. In this vibration all stand together with God. In these vibrating emanations of light, all material consciousness is erased, and we see creations projected forth from the formless into form, all things renewed every instant. In the primal cosmos, aqueous, or God's substance, all things exist, and because of that existence, the vibrations are so high that none perceive them. Unless one stands forth in spirit as we do, it is necessary to raise the vibrations of the body to spirit vibrations. Now, we can see creation going on all the time. And as creation is caused by the radiation of cosmic light vibrations generated in the great cosmos, and this radiation is the great universal life or light energy that sustains all and is called the father of radiation or vibration, it is the father of radiation because its radiation will shatter any other radiation or vibration. In reality, it only sets them aside in order that other forms may take their place. When our body vibrates in tune with spirit vibrations, we are light vibrations, the greatest of all vibrations, God the Father of all vibrations. It will soon be proved that these cosmic rays constitute such a terrific bombardment that they are destructive to so-called matter. These rays are from the source of all energy, the father of all elements, the source from which all elements come. This is not destruction, this is transmutation from so-called matter to spirit form. It will soon be known that these cosmic rays have such tremendous penetrating power that they penetrate through all mass, shattering as shattering, as it were, the very heart or nucleus of a so-called atom, transmuting it into atoms or other substance, and thereby creating other elements of higher order. And in this way, creation advances into a higher emanation of pure light or life itself. Here, we could easily talk about tons of different transmutations or transformations. One of the easiest ones to talk about in context to becoming the Christ is going from a carbon-based life form, carbon-based DNA, to crystalline-based DNA or a crystalline life form, as would you be if you were standing forth in a homo luminous body. If you were occupying, which you currently are, but if you were consciously living out existence from the perspective of your light body, of your higher self, then you would not need carbon-based substances in order to sustain your life force. It would come directly from the Father radiation principle, or the great divine cosmic energy that we're talking about here in this chapter, that is just simply referred to as God in order to make it easy. But if you think about the process through which plants produce their sustenance, photosynthesis, this is akin to how you produce sustenance as a homo luminous being, through receiving these divine subtle vibrations which interpenetrate all matter and lift all things up, sustain all things. This is the source from which you draw your energy when you are homo luminous. These radiations, which have such tremendous penetrating power, are readily distinguished from all radiations coming from the Earth or Sun galaxy, and they have complete control over all these radiations or vibrations. It will soon be known that these radiations come from a universal source, unseen, and that the Earth is continuously subjected to a terrific bombardment of these rays that are so potent they can change or transmute atoms at one element into the infinite particles of another element. It will also, like carbon into crystal, like coal into a diamond. It will also be found that when these cosmic rays strike the nucleus of an atom, it does shatter it, and it separates this atom into the minute particles of another substance, causing transmutation from a lower to a higher element. Thus, these radiations do not destroy matter. They transmute it from a lower to a higher element, from the material to spiritual. This higher element is as man dictates. It is higher as he names and uses it for a higher purpose. When man stands forth in spiritual vibrations, he can fully determine and regulate these rays and their mode of action. Thus, to man standing in spiritual vibrations, transmutation is going on all the time, all about him. Transmutation is but creation in the higher sense. Thus, all are created where they stand. Creation never ceases. It is continuous and never ending. And if you are ever looking for your purpose here on this planet, it is simply that. You are a creator. Start to create. Whatever that creation may be is entirely between you and God. Nonetheless, that is what I'm doing. That is what other people are doing. And if you want to fully pursue the Godhead, then create something, because we're creators. So basically behave in the manner of which your energy signature is most prominent, the creation process. The emanations of radiation from the cosmos are made up of light and are composed of so-called light bullets that burst forth from the cosmos, and these are known as photons. This greater universe is around and encloses and surrounds all universes, to the extent that the suns absorb and bring into its central sun, conserve, concentrate, and build up all the energy that is dissipated from the universes. This central sun becomes so full of vibrating, pulsing energy, and this energy becomes so condensed that the so-called light bullets are shot out with such radiating force that when they collide with the nucleus of another atom, that atom is shattered but not destroyed. Its particles are transmuted into particles of other elements, which are finally assimilated into the element to which they belong. Then that element comes to life. Life is the energy that is released by this so-called bombardment of light bullets. And that portion absorbed by the particles released is called the life of the particle, or of the whole element, while the portion of the energy released but not absorbed as life is returned or drawn back to the cosmos as it were. It is again concentrated and condensed until it can be again shot forth to collide with and shatter other atoms, thus creating the particles that go to create the atom of another element. So here, just to summarize what we're talking about, as Jesus is explaining, and as we've covered in other chapters, our solar system is a part of a galaxy, and our galaxy is a part of a universe. And these things orbit other celestial bodies. Our planet revolves around the sun. Our sun revolves around the central sun of the Milky Way galaxy. And our galaxy, the Milky Way, revolves around the central sun of the universe. And what Jesus is saying is that there's another universe that encloses all of this. You could also just look at it simply, if you want to come down a layer, to the universe in which our galaxy is existing in, and the central sun around which it orbits. And what it's saying is that that central sun is absorbing and condensing light vibrations from all around it at all times, and then giving forth those photons, which we know from, just any basic level understanding of what light is. It is a photon, and while it travels through the ether of space, if you will, it propagates as both a wave and a particle. That particle is known as the photon, and when it collides with other elements, Jesus is saying that it does not destroy the nucleus of the atom. Rather, it breaks it down further into the quantum field, from which those quantum particles arrange themselves into new elements. I would venture to guess that these elements are a more refined nature, because a nucleus of an atom is very small, as it were, and if it were to be broken down further into its quantum particles, those would technically be more fine because they're smaller, and then they would make new elements, and I would imagine those elements to be more refined because they are beginning from a smaller, if you will, orbiting principle, right? A smaller central sun around which electrons and stuff of that nature are going to orbit. So whether or not that particular part is true about them being more fine is irrelevant. It's just cool to talk about. It's just cool to hear them talking about light bullets in here. Before, I think humanity knew what a photon was. Now, today, we know what a photon is. And so they're talking about light bullets in here, and you can know that those are photons. Thus, creation is continuous, everlasting, expanding, and concentrating. Then, through reduced vibrations condensing into form, this intelligent emanating energy is God controlling the universe around us, as well as controlling the universe of our bodies, which are spiritual and not material, light bodies, the Merkaba. This transmutation is not disintegration. The intelligence so directs that only a few of these light bullets strike the nuclei of other atoms at a time ratio and in complete conformity to law, so that no manifestation is overbalanced. Man, one with this supreme intelligence, can in an orderly way step up this impingement so that his needs are fulfilled instantly. In this way, man hastens the slow process of nature. He does not interfere with nature. He works with nature in a higher rate of vibration than that in which nature works in the law order of concept. Lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white, all ready to harvest. John 4:35. All is vibration and corresponds to the plane or field upon which vibration acts. The planes or fields spoken of have no reference to the concentric bands or shells that surround the Earth. These concentric shells or layers are ionization bands, which enclose the Earth and reflect back vibrations originating on the Earth but they do not impede or shut out cosmic light rays. And here we're talking about the toroidal field, the electromagnetic field, that emanates from the planet, from the center of the planet, but outwards. Your body also produces a toroidal field. Apples are in the shape of a toroidal field. Donuts are technically in the shape of a toroidal field. And any life form generates one of these energy signatures. Now, we being bipedal, the top of our toroidal field, or the fountain, if you will, is our crown chakra up here on top of the dome. And the lower part of that toroidal field is the root chakra, which is in between your legs, that kind of like base of the spine area. It is through them that transmutation or creation is going on all the time. Even our bodies are transmuted from a lower to a higher condition, and we become the conscious directors of this change by keeping the thoughts and therefore the body attuned consciously to the higher vibrations. Thus, we attune the body consciously to a higher vibratory rate, and we become that vibration. In this condition, the master waits. As you stand now, you are master. You are ruler over all conditions. The glory and the consciousness of a divine creation is far above any material thought. The first step is fully control all outer activities of thought, mind, and body, with the thought always uppermost that you are cultivating the habit of perfection, the God habit, the Christ of God habit. Do this wherever you are. Every time it comes to you during your working or resting hours, see this perfect presence within you. Get into the habit of seeing this perfect presence as your real self, this Christ of God presence. See a divine white light, dazzling in purity and brilliance, emanating forth from the very center of your being. See it shining forth with such brilliance and glory that it emanates from every cell, fiber, tissue, muscle, and organ of your whole body. Now see the true Christ of God standing forth, triumphant, pure, perfect, and eternal. Not the Christ of me, but your own true Christ of God, the only begotten of your Father God, the only true Son of God, the triumphant and all-conquering Godhead. Step forth and claim this as your divine right, and it is yours. There you have it, folks. The first step as prescribed by Jesus towards becoming Homo Luminous, towards becoming the Christ, is to know that thou est the Christ in your waking hours, in your working hours, in your sleeping hours, in your resting hours. Meditate on your true identity, the Christ. And once you've spent enough time in contemplation on this, carry it with you into the world. Present the ideal of the Christ and become the Christ. Step 2, imagine an radiating white light from the center of your being emanating out in all directions. For this is truly the appearance of divinity, pure white light. Every time you say God, know fully that you are presenting God, and you will do the world a greater service by so doing than by presenting me as the Christ of God. Boom, perfect. Okay, right here we have the death nail of religion. Every time you say God, know fully that you are presenting God, and you will do the world a greater service by so doing than by presenting me, Christ Jesus, as the Christ of God. It is far greater and nobler to see yourself as the Christ of God, you yourself presenting God to the world and beholding God as yourself. You can do the world no greater service than to present yourself as the ideal Christ, not by worshiping any figure from our past, but by embodying the ideal that figure presented to the world while they were alive. That is the highest form of service that we may do unto our fellow beings here on this planet. Let's get after it. You sit back and pray to me to intercede for you. It is wonderful that you do present me to the world as the Christ of God and recognize the God qualities presented through me, just so long as you do not make an idol or image of me and then pray to that idol. The moment you make a graven image of me and pray to that image, you debauch me and yourselves. It is well to see the ideal that I or anyone else presents and then make that ideal your very own. Then we are not apart or separate from God. As such, man conquers the world. Do you not see the greater thing to be accomplished by standing forth one with us in God? If you cultivate this with love, reverence, devotion, and worship, it becomes a habit, and soon it is all of you, your daily life and experience and existence. In a short time, you have brought forth divinity. You are once more the divine Christ, the firstborn of God. You are one with primal spirit energy. Actually feel, see, and take hold of this great light. Accept, declare, and know positively that it is yours. And in a short time, your body will actually send forth this light. Don't believe me, guys. Don't believe Jesus. Try it. You will radiate a positive white light the more and more and more you identify yourself as the Christ. In every age and every condition, all through the great immensity, this supreme light has existed. It is everywhere. This light is life. When anything is made plain, we are enlightened regarding it. The light shines forth into our conscious concept. Soon, the light of life will shine forth to your watching eye, as it has to all great ones. Many of these great ones are portrayed standing forth in a great blaze of light. Although you may not see it, this light is real and is life, radiating from your body. Here, Weldon asked if we might talk over some of the Bible teachings, and Jesus readily assented. We arose and we walked out of the garden together. Weldon exclaimed, "Just think! Here you have contacted these people, and I have lived in the same neighborhood and never recognized them. This day has indeed been a revelation to me. A new world, a new light, a new life stands revealed." We asked him how he recognized the man Jesus, and he answered, "You marvel that I recognized the man for what he is? I do not know how I know. I know, and nothing can shake that knowing." We suggested that if he kept his assignment, it would be necessary for him to leave the following Monday, and that 2 of our party would leave for Darjeeling on that day and would accompany him. "Leave," he replied. "I have already dispatched a messenger asking another person to take my assignment. I'm staying here. You just try to send me away." Beautiful. In this chapter, we get Jesus telling us directly that we are the Christ. You are the Christ. That we may do nothing more noble than to present that ideal and to step forth rightly as our true self. In so doing, the world is made a better place because unconditional love has then been embodied by an individual point of consciousness as we perceive it. What better of a message could you hear from the mouth of Jesus than to go forth and present the ideal and not to worship him? If you are a true seeker, if you're an advanced researcher, you've definitely said this to friends and family, that Jesus is not to be worshiped, because to do so is to idolize the man, which is not what Jesus intended. Jesus came here with a simple message, and he just shared it here again, that each and every single one of us is capable of presenting the ideal of Christ, and thus bringing down the signature energy of Christ to this earthly plane, and all are made better when one does that. If you idolize Jesus, you miss the mark. Jesus achieved personality transparency, and that logos of the universe, unconditional love, then spoke through Jesus. They were one, as all of us are one. And the message never changes. Christ is unconditional love. God is good. Each and every single one of us are part and parcel of the one infinite creator. And because that's the fact, we may embody that identity here and now. In fact, it is our true identity. And these personalities and our egos and our perception of duality are illusions. They are not what is ultimately cosmically real. We perceive them as real and we can sense them. We can reach out and touch them. Nonetheless, they are changing. They are temporary. And anything that changes in a universe that is eternal cannot be said to be the ultimate end-all, be-all reality state. If the universe is eternal and something inside of it is continuously changing, then it is temporary and cannot be the identity of whatever it is that is perceiving reality through those physical eyes. It is in your soul, it is in your Christhood that your identity lies. Allowing that to flow forth from your being is the most noble of services that any one human being could ever provide to others. And remember, the true path to salvation lies in service to others. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste. Thank you so much for being here, and God bless.